When we think about intercultural competence, I mean, there are many different definitions. The one that I think of is, or that I'll refer to, is Darla Deerdorf, who's one of the leading scholars in the field of intercultural communication. Her definition is the ability to communicate effectively and act appropriately in intercultural interactions. Hi, my name is Ingrid Brand. I'm an intercultural consultant, and I'm also a sessional lecturer at the University of Guelph-Humber. I'm delighted to be part of this project because I think it's very important for members of our community in Guelph to become more interculturally aware, culturally self-aware, and to think more about the importance of developing intercultural communication skills and their intercultural competence. My background, actually, I've worked in Egypt, Jordan, and Kuwait as a senior administrator, and at universities in those countries. And those experiences were, for me, transformational. I learned to become more culturally self-aware because, honestly, before I left Canada, I didn't really understand what it was to be Canadian. And I also began to become very aware of cultural differences, not only between the three countries, but also within those countries. And I began to realize how erroneous it was, or how wrong it was to paint with such broad brushstrokes, as we sometimes have a tendency to do. When we think of culture, I mean, people tend to think of artifacts and buildings and clothing and all the kind of visual differences between people from different cultures. Actually, that's not the part of culture that gets us into trouble. Okay, so Edward Hall used the analogy of an iceberg. So the parts that are on the surface of an iceberg, that's a very small part in relation to the part that lies beneath the surface. And therein lies the challenge. Those parts of culture that are not in our awareness. But another analogy that really hits home how much of an impact culture has on the way that we perceive the world around us is the analogy of software of the mind. Culture, according to Geert Hofstede, is like the software of the mind. Okay? So it's like the lens through which we view the world. And so if there's so much that's beneath the surface and that is out of our awareness because of the way that we were programmed throughout our family, our childhoods, our adulthood, through the family, the schools, the culture, the community, if all of that is out of awareness, our own awareness, and we don't challenge some of our assumptions, and then our own worldview is central to our reality, as is that of the person that you're trying to communicate with from another culture. And so all of these things are out of our awareness, and it's very difficult to bridge cultural divides because we're not understanding the world from another. We're not able to shift cultural lenses. So how do we do that? Well, we begin with the right attitudes. The right attitudes are respect, suspending judgment, curiosity, and a willingness to step out of our comfort zone. Okay? Those are key. And then we work on our knowledge. So what kind of knowledge? Well, first of all, cultural self-awareness. What is it to be Canadian? Okay? And that's constantly changing. Cultures are not static, they're dynamic, so they're constantly evolving and changing. So what is it to be Canadian? What are some of the things that form my particular construction of reality? Okay? And then learning about, so that would be cultural self-awareness. Then there's cultural general awareness, learning about other cultures and general behavioral patterns, and there's all kinds of literature about that. And ideas about space, about time, about pretty well every aspect of life, but there are cultural patterns that have been identified. And if we even just learn a little bit about those so that we're more informed when we go into an intercultural interaction, that already helps us become more interculturally competent. But it's intentional. It doesn't happen without wanting to do it and working on it continually. And so the other thing that we have to work on is cultural specific information. So if you go to another country, you learn not about the, of course, the, things that you'd like to see there or whatever, but not the surface culture, but more about the aspects of culture that are out of your view, below the surface. If we go back to that iceberg analogy, the things that create fertile soil for misunderstanding and conflict are those things that lie beneath the surface.